So the main topic for today is, where is the industry going? And how might this actually affect the way that we think about our jobs, right? And our job searches if we're looking for jobs. So I'm going to turn it over to Josephine, who has helped put together a good panel of people who have some ideas about this stuff. Josephine.
All right. Okay, everyone, this is a moment we've all been waiting for. Here we go.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce each speaker in turn, let them speak for 10 minutes. And then we'll have lively questions and answers.
Yeah.
I'll start introducing Dr. Jeffrey Lee Funk. He's a retired professor and author of 5 books. As a professor at National University of Singapore in 2007, he taught a unique course on the economics of new technologies that helped him become an early critic of today's startups and venture capital. His latest book is Unicorns, Hype, and Bubbles. Dr. Funk?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to probably be the biggest pessimist of all, so take that into account as you listen to me. I'm going to talk about the AI bubble. And when I say there's a bubble in AI, I don't mean AI is useless, not at all. I just mean that the expectations are higher than they should be. And for a financial bubble like AI is, it's that the increase in market capitalization over the last couple of years is far higher than it should have been. So that's $10 trillion for the Magnificent Seven. So I'm sure you've heard of the Magnificent Seven, but if you haven't, Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla. So that's a lot, $10 trillion. That's what their market capitalization, how much their market capitalization has gone up since January 2023. Almost all of that is because of generative AI. So those are big expectations. And I don't think they're going to be met. And that has an impact on your opportunities. But we'll come back to that later. That's my main point. But first, let's talk more about the bubble. There's also startups in there, right? OpenAI is valued at 157 billion. Anthropic's valued at 60 billion. There's many others. And many of you probably know more about this than I do, because some of you have dreams of big money. That's okay. I did too when I was a young man. Well, what do these figures mean? Well, I'm saying that AI companies are probably overvalued in the public and private market. So at some point, the share prices are going to fall. Some companies will go bankrupt.
Muted.
Sorry, I muted you accidentally. Could you unmute yourself?
You might need,
he's right there.
you might need to unmute him as the
No, Jeff. You want Jeff, not Leonard.
You want Jeff?
You want Jeff, not Leonard. Go up
Go up to.
There we go.
No, ask him to unmute, click on that.
There we go. Now,
Okay.
now you've been unmuted. Okay, you're good.
Can I go on now?
Yes.
Yes, he's okay.
Good.
Okay, so what do these figures mean? Now, some of you are thinking, well, these bubbles burst. It's happened before, so no big deal. You're right. In 2000, of course, the dot-com bubble burst, and still the internet did very well. Now, of course, a lot of money was lost. In 2008, nothing good came out of that bubble. It burst, but subprime mortgage bubble, nothing good came out of that. The real question now is how much will the market stock market drops, and right, who knows? The NASDAQ dropped about 70% over a few years after the bubble burst in 2000. But one way to look at this question is to ask how much revenue support the investment infrastructure for both the last bubble, I shouldn't say the last bubble, the dot-com bubble and the current bubble. So both bubbles involved a lot of spending on infrastructure, right? So the internet infrastructure, there was a lot of infrastructure implemented there. WorldCom and some of these companies went bankrupt. And today, there, of course, is a lot of infrastructure. It's mostly NVIDIA. It's not accessing the internet. It's these data centers. And so we compare these revenues, and if you look at the current one, the final revenues, the revenues that really add value to the final user, are about 10 billion in AI software, right? A lot of that's open AI. You're going to say, well, we don't really know because the numbers aren't really released. Even Microsoft doesn't release the numbers. So maybe they're more, maybe they're less. Maybe they're probably a little more than that. But keep in mind that you can use Chat GPT for free to a certain extent. You couldn't in the internet bubble of 2000, right? You had to buy a PC and get an internet subscription. So right away, you could see revenues that signified people really liked the internet. There was also e-commerce. If you put those three together, buying PCs, paying for internet subscriptions, and e-commerce revenues. In 2000, it was about 1.5 trillion. 1.5 trillion in 2024 dollars. Whereas today we only got AI software like 10 billion. So despite the bubble bursting, right, in 2000, there was a lot of revenues. There was a lot of indication that people really liked the internet, to the extent that they were willing to pay for it a lot. They were willing to pay a lot for it. So there's going to be a bust, right? And I know that some of you are saying, why tell me this? I don't care about investing. I don't invest. I just want to get a job in AI and I want to have a good job and make money. That's fine. That's fine. But the problem is that companies and applications will be impacted by a stock drop. That happened in 2000. Happens all the time. It's going to happen this time. So which ones are going to be the most impacted? Well, the ones that aren't providing a lot of value. I mean, if they're providing value, then they're going to survive more than others. So you have to think about this, right? And a lot of you have a very optimistic, expectations. You have a lot. You think that a lot's going to happen, and you want to survive a lot. But I'm just saying, be careful. I'm not trying to tell you to not have big expectations and to want to challenge a lot of things. That's fine. But just be careful. And I want to say a few words. One way I'm going to say a few words that there's a buzzword going around nowadays, at least according to the Wall Street Journal. By the way, I read the Wall Street Journal very carefully. The Wall Street Journal is very optimistic about capitalism. So it is very optimistic about AI in general. But they have a lot of articles saying, where are the applications, the successful applications? I mentioned, 10 billion is all for AI software. So they're trying to find these successful applications. So they had this article just a few days ago. It's called Why Cost Avoidance Became an AI Buzzword for Holding Down Headcount. So what the article says is that companies are justifying their AI investments by saying they can hold down the headcount. They're not justifying it because they saved money, which is what the investors want to see. They're saying because it hold down the headcount. So, right, these types of articles, they make me suspicious, right? And then it has examples of companies that are succeeding with AI. And these are my favorite articles. I'm always looking for ones that succeed. And this article doesn't really have many details, except in one case. They have this company called TS Imagine. I didn't know it before I read this article. It's a financial software company, but it receives 100,000 email alerts each year. And they have to respond to them. And manually sorting them requires 4,000 hours of work, and so on and so on and so on. And AI helps them do that. Now, I would imagine that most of you there today aren't saying, this is what I want to do with my career. But this is likely one of those boring applications that will continue to succeed even after the bubble bursts. Okay, and there's all kinds of other applications like recommendation systems, operation support, search, natural language processing, computer vision, fraud detection, demand forecasting. These things that have been going on for a number of years, mostly in predictive AI, that's where the success is. It hasn't been in replacing doctors, drivers, or policemen, like a lot of people have been saying, like the media has been saying. So there's lots of examples of these successes, but remember, they're small wins. They're not worth 10 trillion. They're nice. They provide jobs and they're fine jobs and that provides value. And so I'm not saying anything like that, but just remember that they're not worth 10 trillion. And of course, a lot of what I'm saying also depends on your preference risk, how much you want, how much risk you are willing to take, right? And just keep in mind that it isn't just how much risk you want to take, it's how much your spouse or your friends or your family wants you to take when you're choosing a job, right? So, and plus, if you have hobbies like take vacations, want to raise a family, or perhaps support your parents, well, then maybe that will affect your risk preferences. So these are just some of the things that I think you should think about when you're looking for a job. And in the end, it's your decision, obviously. And if you want to see more, hear more about these issues, you can read my book, Unicorns, Hype, and Bubbles. And you can also follow me on LinkedIn. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Okay. And by the way, if you have questions for Jeffrey, you can put them in the chat or you can write them down or just we'll have Q&A at the end of all three presentations. So I would mention that we're very happy to have Dr. Funk coming in all the way from Singapore. This panel represents 3 different continents tonight. So our next speaker is Leonard Lee. He is the founder and managing director of Next Curve and is based in San Diego. So that takes care of North America. His company currently advises some of the leading firms across the technology, media, telecommunications, and industrial technology sectors on frontier priorities that are shaping the future of tech and industry. So please help me welcome Leonard Lee.
Hi, everyone. Want to thank Josephine for inviting me to this panel. And I'm actually going to keep this a little bit short because I want to expand the time for Q&A, or at least, provide the attendees here a chance to ask questions. So a little bit about my background. So I've been in the technology consulting, strategy consulting, as well as industry research game for going on 32 years. And so started my career doing database application development. Actually, even before then, I was in the financial industry, doing research for the Korean Stock Exchange, helping them design the Kospi 200. So that was actually where I started my career, but quickly pivoted toward IT. And at the time, IT was or information systems, as they put it back in the day, that was the hot thing. And so I figured, hey, I'm going to get into this and start off my career, as I mentioned, doing the database application development, and joined Ernst & Young and had a 25-year career in technology and strategy consulting. So I was a partner principal at IBM, PwC, EY, and worked across a number of different industries, saw many cycles of technologies, things that worked and things that were quite hyped. And also was at the center of the dot-com, the dot-com era. I was in the Silicon Valley at the time working with these companies called dot-com companies, right? And so I had a chance to work with some of the emerging search engine companies and did some pioneering work on the back office systems of these companies that really at the time were fledgling. They were very immature, and helped develop a lot of the systems that are now the back end systems of some of the big companies that you know, dominate the space today, right? Whether it's a Meta or Google. And so some of my clients back then were the likes of Yahoo, you know, Alta Vista, InfoSeek. I don't know if you remember some of those names, but you know, the reason why I'm bringing up the dot-com era is, as Dr. Funk mentioned, that was probably the quintessential hype cycle playing out in what you would call the digital industry that we know today. And I think it's an important lesson because, you know, I lived through that. And I also saw at the time many of my colleagues in the consulting industry go and join some of these startups and make some choices that were a compromise, right? They traded a rather nice compensation with a consulting firm to join a startup where most of their compensation was based on stock options. And then we also saw how all that turned out when the bubble burst. So I was there when the bubble burst as well. And so having that experience, being in the middle of that dynamic, is something that has stuck with me for quite some time because, you know, quite frankly, it was traumatic for a lot of the folks who were going through the downside of that hype cycle. And so one of the things that I do at Nextcurve, oh, and the other thing is after 25 years in consulting, I made the transition to becoming an industry analyst. So I was with Gartner for 3 years. And 7 years ago, I started my own firm called Nextcurve. And so today I do work with some of the leading companies, some of the ones that you see in the headlines, working on some of their, you know, priority initiatives, as well as working with them on their frontier strategies. And so I'm in an interesting position where I get to see the trends that are underlying the hype. And as Dr. Funk mentioned, the hype is pretty intense and it oftentimes obscures the ground truth. And the challenge there is that as somebody who's looking at a career in quote unquote the technology industry, it's really difficult to get a bearing of what's real and where you should commit your time and energy. And often, and that can be, I know that it can be really stressful, and it also creates a degree of volatility that I think many of you are going to have to figure out how to navigate. So whether it was the blockchain hype cycle that we saw emerge in around the 2017-18 period, or it was the metaverse, or it was 5G, or the many hype cycles associated with AI. One of the challenges in planning a career is figuring out how to navigate and plan through these hype cycles. And I think one of the things that can be a clarifying thing is that at the end of the day, there is going to be some residual opportunities, right? Through each of these cycles, there are real requirements, real value opportunities that can be, that you can tune into. And those are the things I think that are going to be the sustaining opportunities. And the trick is figuring out what those are. And so without going on too long, I'm going to leave it at that. And hopefully we'll have, you know, I can address questions during the Q&A. Hello?
Thank you, Leonard.
Yeah, I'm done.
Wonderful. I think you came in under 10 minutes, so it may beep while
Good.
I'm talking. No worries. Everyone's doing really great. I'd like to introduce our third speaker on our panel, Debbie Levitt. She is Chief Experience Officer at Delta CX, a customer experience and user experience consulting firm. She has been involved in consulting for 30 years, helping companies with their customer experience and user experience strategy, research, information architecture, interaction design, prototyping, and testing. Her latest book, she's written several, is Life After Tech. It's about discovering and planning your new career paths and entrepreneurial activities, whether you're staying in tech, whether you're done with tech, or whether tech is done with you. And Debbie's coming to us from the continent of Europe in Sardinia. So welcome, Debbie. Please help
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. It's 2:45 here. I put my time on my overlay so you could enjoy that. I didn't know we were making opening statements, so I've just scribbled a bunch of things that I think I want to cover. And then, of course, I'm happy to take questions, including challenging questions. I disagree with you questions. These are all welcome. So I come to this from the perspective of being more on the front lines among the workers, the worker bees, and the leaders. And I know that this event is called Tech Outlook and Careers. I'm really just going to talk about careers. And the first thing that struck me, and I made some notes here, is look around the room. Everyone in this room should not only have a job, but should have a better time finding a job. That to me is the main signal I'm looking for. I'm looking for, let's find the people who you would think normally would be able to easily find a job or have jobs fighting for them. Who remembers those days? And there are people in the room who are in difficult situations because of where tech jobs are right now. I am looking for a job. I've got a little bit of freelancing cooking, but my last job ended in June when they decided to cut the budget. And I also think about the people who have tech jobs, and I'm thinking more about the worker bees and some of the leadership, but maybe even higher. Um, who's really happy in these jobs? Because the workplaces are increasingly toxic. The demands for where you need to be and what you need to do and how many hours you need to work and what you're going to get paid, these are all shifting. My perspective is mostly the world of CX, UX, product, sometimes engineering. That I'm a little bit in touch with a lot of engineers, but I'm not going to claim to know to be the most informed about their jobs. But in our world, we're seeing, yeah, thank you. Aurelia says people are miserable living in fear of the next calling. Absolutely. And that's on purpose. That's by design. The companies need you to be afraid of that, because what I'm also seeing, I'm seeing a decrease in pay and salaries, both for full-timers and for freelancers, contractors. And I'm seeing an increase in people in my sphere feeling like order takers. They feel like I can't really do what I was trained to do or what I love to do or what I'm passionate about doing. We're seeing ethics teams cut. And so I think that I mean, in general, what my advice tends to be, if you can get the job in tech and you're still happy doing it, please do it. There's nothing in any of my messages or articles or online communities or videos or books that says, get your ass out of tech. My new book is just to say, if you feel like you might be done with tech due to burnout, decreasing salaries, move your ass to Austin, Texas at your own expense. Oops, we just laid you off. Or you feel like tech is done with you because you can't get that job. What's your plan? That's my main message. Have a plan for what's next, because many of us are not necessarily close to a retirement age. We are still looking to work. I would love to work for the next 40 years if I could, and I'm 53. Um, and my advice and my book is about making that plan and having that plan, whether you start that out as a side thing or whether that becomes your main thing. What is your plan? So many of us claim to be strategic. We're problem finders, we're problem solvers, we're critical thinkers, we're systems thinkers, and we don't have a plan for what might be next. Nothing in Austin, says David in the Zoom chat. It's tough everywhere. And so I also want to talk about, are companies or teams producing value? The way that value's been measured has been changed. I think I am seeing companies in general, not all of them, many of them caring less about the customer and user experience. The value is shareholder value. The value is not necessarily employee experience, which was hot for a little while and then fell off a cliff. It's not necessarily user and customer experience. Your job description will say you're going to make customers and users happy. You're going to learn and fulfill their needs. And then it doesn't really happen. It's a lot of deadline focused, fake agile universe out there. And so in a world where quality were the priority, we would be able to say things like, AI can't take my job. Only I can do something at this level of this quality with my human experience, with my empathy, with my skill set, with what makes me human, especially in CX and UX, where I do a lot of research. So I'm talking to humans, I'm observing humans. AI's not great at that yet. But that implies that quality is the top thing. And in many companies, it is speed and deadlines. And so the argument of, well, AI can't take my job is harder in a situation in which someone is doing a mediocre version of your job. It might be you because of the deadlines put on you and the lack of resources. And it might be someone else. Like in UX, we have a problem with product managers who think our jobs look easy. They're trying to show they have value. They want to be the last multi-corn standing, as I call it. And so they're trying to do our work. They don't do it very well. Nobody cares. Where's the accountability? Where's that? So that's my concern, is that we don't live in a world that's really focused on the quality of our work, the quality of what teams are producing, the quality of the outputs, and the quality of the outcomes. And in that universe, it's easier for even a mediocre AI to come in and say, well, we're going to do some of the UX design. We're going to do some of the front end dev. We're going to do some of the back end dev. We're going to be a marketing manager. We're going to be a product leader. And I'm seeing a huge run in the spheres in which I travel at AIs from big and small companies that are specifically designed to replace us. We have literally had conferences run by companies who produce tools who say, you don't want those annoying UX designers anymore. Our AI can do what they can do. And the problem is that whether or not there's an AI bubble, whether or not it meets some of its targets and expectations around value, I care about what's really going on for each of you at that human level, which is, are you in danger of being partially or wholly replaced by even a mediocre AI? So these are the things I'm worried about. And before that, I was worried about Section 174 tax changes, which if you're not familiar with, please Google for my article, Levitt, Medium, Section 174. And thanks to Section 174 tax changes voted in by Trump in 2017 and enacted in 2022, interestingly enough, when some of the layoffs really got cooking, there are great tax advantages to companies to have fewer people. That has not been undone. And with Trump coming back, I don't foresee a future in which that is improved. In fact, it may continue to go in the direction it has been. And so the question is, we've seen so many layoffs and we've seen many companies reducing jobs in all kinds of different ways. Where's the incentive for them to hire more when they reduced headcount and they saw their stock price go up and they saw that they were still making money and they saw that they were still producing crap that we all hate and complain to customer support about? There doesn't seem to be that stereotypical burning platform where things are going so badly for companies that they need to hire me. So I could probably go on for 4 hours, but it is coming up on 3 a.m. and I don't know how long I've been talking. So I will just say my main message is if you can work in tech and it pays the bills and you don't hate yourself and you don't hate life, good, keep doing it. I'm going to try to keep doing it. I love it and I don't want to stop doing it. But for those of us who get the feeling it's not going to carry us till retirement, what is your plan? We have insurance and we hope we never use it. I'm one of the few people who can say I had a prenuptial agreement and I had to use it. We have insurance, we have plans, we have what ifs, we have where is our plan for what happens if we can't get that next tech job, especially when we're feeling burnt out, desperate, resources are running low. Do plan as early as you can while you're still feeling it and you have the energy. I guess I'll pause there and shift to question multiverse. But thanks again to Josephine for inviting me, and I hope some of the things I say can resonate for people and feel helpful and allow you to take some action.
Thank you. You're getting a lot of applause here in Princeton, Debbie.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
hear it.
Oh, I see flames.
Looks like she's in Los
Um,
Angeles.
Dennis, did you want me to start the Q&A?
I do,
Can we check the chat as a starting point?
we can check the chat, because there've been a couple of comments that have just gone by. And Debbie was good enough to read them all.
Yes, Debbie, thank you for doing that.
And-
Also, I did note that if some of the online attendees had wanted to talk about jobs that they were looking for,
Yeah.
we may not have given them a chance for that.
Yeah, here's Katie, who says, I need help looking for a job, 10 years of experience as director of IT in a nonprofit industry. Yeah, managing operation and small help desk. Yeah, yeah.
People can contact me because I have done informal career coaching over the years. I've been trained as a certified career coach. So maybe I can put my email address in the chat.
Okay.
But in the meantime, are there any questions from the floor?
The points next to Leonard, that's sort of shaking.
What is that gadget next to Leonard? Leonard?
Where?
There's
Which
some
one?
other gadget next to
Right.
you.
This one?
What is it?
What is it?
What is that gadget?
That's a guitar.
No, no, the other side.
Yeah.
That's a Mac. That's a Mac Plus.
Oh,
But
it's the
it's sort of-
microphone.
But it's moving.
Yeah, because it's on a like an arm.
Microphone. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's a microphone.
a microphone
Okay.
on an arm.
I thought it was a 3D printer. So, okay. It's a microphone.
Yeah.
That'd
Okay.
be kind of cool. But you know what? If we don't have questions right now, I do want to talk about some trends that I'm seeing in particular related to quote unquote AI. At the moment, there's a lot of investment going on in AI. Much of it is when we look at it in terms of the AI data centers or these generative AI supercomputing facilities, a lot of it has to do with infrastructure, right? And so that's where a lot of energy is being put into, as well as capital, into those build outs. So obviously careers, companies that, previously were actually struggling because there was a dip in infrastructure spending. I don't know if folks recall about a year and a half ago, there was this whole trend toward cloud repatriation. We saw a drop off in investment in data centers. All of a sudden, these companies are finding opportunity because you have the hyperscalers investing tremendously into building out these super clusters. And so when we look at what looks like the opportunity, a lot of it is related to this data center build out. Now, you also have a lot of companies now that are emerging, that are VC funded, that are doing model building, and that also obviously is drawing a lot of folks who have hardcore data science backgrounds as well as CS backgrounds and into those opportunities. One of the problems there, though, is there's, as Dr. Funk alluded to, these are like those startup opportunities back in the .com era, right? These are the ones where these are kind of career gambles. It's more than likely most of these companies are not going to survive. So if your sights are set on these types of opportunities, I think you just need to be very cognizant that the revenue is really not there. Everyone's still trying to figure out how to monetize these models that are being built out, right? Now, on the end market side of things, a lot of companies are running POCs with generative AI applications, right? And one of the things that they're finding out is there's a huge demand for the traditional stuff because many of these implementations and applications require RAG. I don't know if you folks are aware of this, but POC is a proof of concept. In other words, an internal enterprise experiment on a technology that they're considering for implementation. And so they're testing for value, right? These are not going very well. And so you need to be very, very cautious about the opportunities out there up and down the stack. And one of the problems that is endemic to what we're looking at right now is it is largely hype driven. And this is the detrimental dynamic of hype. And one of the reasons why, actually, Dr. Funk, if you follow us on LinkedIn, we talk about this all the time. And it makes it very difficult for anyone to invest, an individual to invest in a career that has longevity or commit to a company. And so these are really, really tricky things that I think folks in the quote unquote tech industry have to navigate.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on a little bit on that, Leonard, with you and maybe with the other panelists as well. I've gone to several meetings of a local startup club of sorts. And I found the conversations to be very, let's say, disconcerting because, my training and experiences in user experience research, and like Debbie, I'm concerned about quality and having a strong user vision. And what I tend to find when I speak to people in the startup community is that they think they can do everything themselves, including good user experience research. And they tend not to have a budget to hire someone like me, like a good researcher, right? And they think they can, do everything on sweat equity. And, it's a problem because, I've even talked to people I've met who were in a kind of startup mode, and they would show off this product that they had. And when I would ask them questions which are like grounded in reality, like what problem does this solve for the end user? They couldn't answer my question. They could not give me a single use case where it was demonstratable that, in fact, this wonderful product they had, and they were built out, could actually solve a problem that a user actually had. And so, there's, I was very dissatisfied with my conversations in general with people in the startup community.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the problems is there is this culture now of what I call dung flinging. It's, hey, let's just throw crap up against the wall and see if it sticks. And it's mixed in with this MVP mentality, minimum viable product mentality, which fosters just mediocrity. And so it becomes a numbers game, right? It's like, how much crap can we throw up against the wall, and then hopefully one of these things sticks, and our VC backers will be happy one of these days and glad that they funded us, right? I mean, this is a real thing. It's I'm not just trying to be a comedian here, even though what I'm saying is not funny. But these are I think everyone who's listening, who's looking at opportunities, needs to develop a discernment about what's real and what's not. There are a lot of, look, and anyone who's talks about innovation, you need to be very careful, because innovation is such an overused word. There has been an incredible deprecation of the concept, or just focus on excellence. And we used to talk about that in the 80s. If you go to B school, it was all about excellence. Now no one talks about it. They talk about how much crap can you throw up against the wall, and you really don't want to be associated with companies that have that mentality. But unfortunately, there's so many that have been encouraged to take on that kind of culture, and it's a pretty wide, pervasive mindset now in the tech industry. In fact, it defines the tech industry these days. So these are the things that really make it very tricky for anyone to have a stable career and find a job where they're going to enjoy what they do and prosper, right?
Right. Jeff and Debbie, would you like to
Yeah,
add to
I would
that?
like to follow up. Yeah, I'd like to follow up on some of the things Leonard said. He, his recent point, which is related to a previous point, he talked about proof of concepts and how there's all these proof of concepts out there, and they've tested them, and if you read the Wall Street Journal, but there's others, the other mainline business press, that say they can't seem to find anything that really works well, right? They do all the experiments. So the investment is in infrastructure, as Leonard said, but it's also in these experiments, and that's fine. All new technologies involve experiments, and so we're going through this experiment phase. But the problem is they're having trouble finding the success stories. And so this causes companies to do what Leonard said, is throw stuff against the wall and hope something sticks, and not think about it carefully, because when they thought about it carefully in these experiments, it didn't work out. So it is going to affect people's careers, and they have to learn how to think about these things. And the fact is that engineering students aren't taught about these things. I mean, I have a PhD in engineering and a bachelor's in physics. I did mathematics for years, all these differential equations. That was 40 years ago, but still, that's what I did. And the world isn't that way right now. The world, and even 40 years ago, it was overrated math. There was a lot of problem solving you had to be able to do. But now it's not even problem solving. Now it's something even broader. It's trying to understand which problems can be solved, which problems should we be trying to solve. And, when you're looking for a career, you have to decide, which problems you're going to try to solve, thinking, well, I want to be involved with solving problems that can be solved, so that I have some success and have the happiness that Debbie Levitt was talking about, right? That's what we want to do. We want to have that happiness from solving problems and getting a good paycheck and all the other things associated with that.
Thank you, Jeff. And you're
Yeah.
reminding me of some of the work of David Snowden and complexity theory as you were speaking. Some problems are too chaotic to really be solved using, say, methods for complicated or complex problems, right? Debbie, what would you
Yeah.
like to add?
Yeah, hard to disagree with these peeps, especially loved what Leonard was saying. Put an agree sign up on my thing. In addition to what he was saying, what came to mind for me was also because we're starting to echo each other a little bit, the lack of quality, the crappy MVPs, speed over quality, just throw something out there and maybe we'll prove later that there's some sort of use case. What Josephine's saying, we're not finding problems and understanding problems. And even when a big product management book came out some years ago and was so popular and took over the world and all that, and said, oh, you should do more discovery research, the book actually recommended just talk to a few people a week and ask them what they want. And I think anyone who has any background in generative research or understanding people, concepts, systems, tasks, habits, behaviors, knows that that's not the right way, but that's the methodology that's taking everything by storm right now. And we keep having what I call generic book X. I've written an article on that. You can go Google, Levitt, Medium, generic book X. And basically what I say is all of the popular books just keep ripping each other off. You know, lean startup, and then lean UX ripped that off, and then design thinking got redefined and ripped that off, and then Teresa Torres rips that off, and we don't have any new ways anymore, and that's because business can't handle it. Because when someone like me comes in and says, you should probably change a lot of the things you're doing if you'd like to see more success, better outcomes, etc., they go, oh, but you know, that's not what we've been doing, and we want to this seems to be working. There's a lot of fake stories of this seems to be working, and I just want to remind everybody of the Section 174 tax code change that went into effect in 2022, among other things, made it much harder for businesses, American businesses, to write off all of the expenses, human and otherwise, related to research, development, experimentation, design, and innovation. Specifically, that's what a certain president did to change the things because that was designed to offset the tax cuts for the rich. And so now it's harder to write off everybody on your screen right now because of these new tax laws. And without that being changed, I think that we're going to see companies focusing on crappy MVPs, just get it out there, we'll fix it later, which never really happens, or it's good enough, or oh, we're just going for KPIs. Who cares about human experience? Did we see a rise in revenue? Did we see this? And just these very myopic looks at metrics. And I think if something larger isn't done about the ability to write off innovation, the ability that's it's also to me why we've seen such a boost in AI the last couple of years, because you can't write off all these people, so you might as well just get a Figma license and use their tool. Or I don't know if you've seen Miro, but Miro not only bought a tool that pretends to do UI design, but Miro now has sidekicks where when you do your work, you can have a product leader AI or I think it's a Scrum Master or Agile Coach AI look at your work and give you feedback on it as if you don't work with people anymore. And to me, this is what we're going to be losing our jobs to potentially. A couple of years ago, I was pleasantly surprised to read Jeff ditched the long espoused MVP. Yeah, I was very suspicious of that timing because Jeff is high on my shit list. And I was very suspicious of his timing when he fought the agile people and the MVP people, because it made Jeff a lot of money for a lot of years. He rode the coattails of the lean startup for many, many years. And I think only when it stopped making him money did he suddenly decide, oh, I'm going to come out against MVP and I'm going to come out against agile. I don't know him, but I don't like him and I don't trust him. So you look for the money, look where the money is. So I don't trust Jeff at all. And yeah. And when he came out against shit, I was like, where were you for the last 6 years? You were raking in the money on trainings and book sales. And did I mention trainings at 30,000 a day? So yeah, not impressed with him. Anger, anger, dot anger.
Thank you. Leonard, did you want to add something?
Yeah, you know, a little bit of advice, I guess a guiding principle for those of you who are looking to, looking at, continuing to pursue a career in tech, quote unquote tech. I don't quite know what that means, quite frankly, but I'll
Oh,
just say-
it could mean a broad variety of things. It could be
yeah, and
degrees in
especially if
computer
you're,
science. It could be
it could be
working
anything.
as a
Actually,
programmer or developer. It could mean a number of different things.
this is I guess, a broad recommendation because, there's a perception that AI, and probably a reality that AI is going to impact a lot of jobs and careers. Is right now there is most folks are under the illusion that AI can do everything. And the reality is it's not even good at doing certain some certain tasks, or many tasks. There's a disconnect between what people expect AI can do versus what is required in, let's say, a deterministic type of application or task or process. And so those are the things that you're going to want to lean into, because AI just simply is never going to get there. I mean, statistically impossible for it to get there. I've challenged a lot of researchers over the years about this. And one of the reasons why AI in industrial and IoT and every other domain that you can think of has not made huge traction is because of that. We had a lot of people wanting to take a probabilistic technology and add 90% accuracy or reliability to a process that requires 6 nines. If you're not familiar with 6 nines, it basically means 99.9999% downtime. It has to be that reliable. In deterministic processes, those are already established with best practices. Now you're going to overlay a technology that will introduce anywhere from 20 to 5 to 20% errors. It doesn't make sense, right? And so these are things that a lot of industries are going to learn, who never heard of AI before, especially generative, who are under this assumption that somehow this thing is going to be magically able to displace people, and that is not going to necessarily be the case. But that being said, job roles will change because it is going to provide some assistive capabilities, and it will hopefully augment some job functions, and in that way foster some productivity improvement. But it's usually not, let's say, revolutionary. It's going to AI has always been augmenting technology. And so something to keep in mind as you look at your careers and you try to come up with a battle plan for going up against the AI.
Thank you. I'd like to focus our conversation, if I might, on Neil Ormos's comment. He says, it seems we are hearing many tips about what companies, or at least types or categories of them, to avoid and things not to do. Who can offer concrete, actionable suggestions that we in the audience can do, not necessarily a recipe as might appear in a cookbook, but something we can actually do without requiring time travel, so as to have picked just the right branch of technology or whatever to have pursued?
Read my book. That's the subject of my book. That's what it's about. I cover these things and I talk about, there's a few technologies that have, some happy users, iWatches and things, and there's, Starlink. But yeah, you have to think about the rate at which the technology improves. That's the key, right? You look and you see, do you find some users? Are they happy? Are they paying money? How much they paying? And then how fast is it improving? And you have to be careful. You have to focus on those metrics that matter to the customer. So people will just say, oh, so much is happening in generative AI. Yeah, there's a lot of news stories, a lot of products coming out, but are those hallucinations? Are the frequency of hallucinations declining? Are the frequency of problems with bad code? Are they declining? That's what you want to understand. So you want to find that technology that's really is getting better. That's why people talked about Moore's Law for 7 years, because it was good evidence that things are getting better.
Thank you. Debbie, would you like to add? Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Josephine might know me well enough to know that one of my slogans is meaningful, actionable, and helpful. So to see somebody ask for actionable, it's like, yes, I'm on it. The book that I wrote and published a few months ago, and again, it's as little as $10. So this is not me trying to sell some giant expensive thing. You can also check out my YouTube channel, Delta CX Hive, and see what I'm about before spending any money, if that's, if that interests you. But I wrote this book to try to answer these questions. We can't go back in time. I can't go back in time and change where I am today. I'm not completely unhappy with where I am today. But the idea of my Life After Tech book is it's meant to be a career planning and introspection book. It's as far as I can tell, it's the first book to talk about what if I'm not going to work in tech. But that's probably scary for a lot of people in the audience, and that you're thinking, no, I want to work in tech. I want to work in tech. I did my tech education. I want to be in tech. I get it too, but it can end up a bit of a sunk cost fallacy if we're at the point where we cannot find that tech job. My last tech job ended in June. At what point do I say, tech is done with me? I can't find a job. I don't know when that point is. So my actionable suggestion is to start planning what else you will do, whether that's in addition to your tech job. I like to tell people that my husband and I have just started a karaoke DJ business, and I'm very excited to go out there and sing my ass off because I have a degree in music. And if it brings in some money and contributes to the income and pays for stuff, what's wrong with that? And maybe the variety is going to help people not be so damn burnt out. So, my actionable suggestion is start planning what else you might do, whether that's in tech or out of tech or a combination of both, because chances are many of us are going to end up not being able to eventually find that tech job or keep it or want to keep it. So if pay is going down and mental health is going down, these may be jobs we don't even want. And yeah, not everybody's going to become a firefighter, but I think electrician and plumber are great ideas. But there's plenty of other things that you can look at doing and being that will bring in money. And I just suggest people have plans. And that's what my book is about. My book is about, I have a framework, I have a recipe, I have the thing that but it's going to be customized for you. I have the thing that you can follow to figure out where to go next. And I have free Discord and other communities where I support people for free.
Thank you, Debbie. We have a question from Rebecca, and then we have one from Jordy.
Here we go. Oh, which way do I hold it?
This is right. Okay. So it's sort of a question / comment. We're here in New Jersey, and both Dennis and I had worked at AT&T, Bell Labs. And so, and other laboratories, folks in the area. What you're saying is just right on the money, especially what Debbie is saying, that, it's just, the there you go. It's just that the financial motivation to have people who just sit and think in think tanks, it's just not there anymore. And that has just basically been destroyed. And but when you think about it, we lived through this. Without AT&T, you would not have had the C programming language, the C++ programming language, the Unix operating system, which led into the Linux operating system. And so many seminal things were created by people who were just allowed to sit around and think in think tanks and come up with stuff that were answers and solutions to problems that they were dealing with. But some of these persisted decades later. And so I guess, what I'm trying to say is, if we can't somehow motivate the government to allow companies to write off these sorts of things? What can we do? And then the other part of that sort of question is, if we're constantly saying that, we have to be able to do these various things in our, in the company, for the company, and we're, doing that, just sort of focusing on whatever it is, when will we ever have the time and the opportunity to do the think tank stuff? The AIs are not going to help us with that, because the AIs only talk about what is already known. So it's that novel and pushing forward and coming up with completely off the wall types of things that we're losing out on. And I think that's a serious problem. That's basically what I wanted to say.
okay.
I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
You, and to anyone in particular or everyone?
I guess everyone. or-
Who would like to
speak.
begin?
Debbie can start.
Debbie can start.
Sorry, I'd muted. Thank you for that. Yeah, obviously we all agree with you, and we know the importance of the innovation and the research and development. We saw research and development teams being cut, not just in the last few years, but even before that, when everybody started getting the agile MVP lean startup bug, and they said, we don't want this. We don't need all this research and development. That's too slow. Y'all are dinosaurs. And so I would certainly agree with you that to me, the companies doing it right are investing in that, but I feel like it's rarer than it used to be. And I think it also goes back to a great comment from Leonard, which was, what is the definition of innovation? So many companies now think if you build something that you didn't have yesterday, it's innovative. But technically not. You did not invent anything. You will not get a patent on it. It is not innovative. You just made a thing you didn't have yesterday. First there was no chicken and rice, and then I made chicken and rice. I'm not an innovator. So I think that the problem is companies will cut anything that they don't see value in, or they think the ROI isn't there. And so if they think the ROI is not in innovation or invention or these furthering technology or humanity in these matters, I don't know how you convince them of that. I don't know how you convince the smoker to stop smoking. I don't know how these are changes that I mean, I've been brought into billion-dollar companies where they asked me, help us be more customer centric and help us fix our problems and help us keep our lead or be more of a leader. And when I gave them the 120 slide report, they did almost none of it. And so what's the incentive to do something other than what companies are doing now when their profits and stock prices tell them they're winning? We keep waiting for a bubble to burst, and we keep waiting for the AI to crash the plane, and we keep waiting for these companies to lose, and they don't think they're losing. They think it's okay to smoke 72 packs a day. So I don't know how to fix this other than better leadership, because the average back-end dev is not necessarily going to change this, and I don't expect them to. But where are our managers, directors, VPs? A lot of them are tap dancing along right now because they don't want to be in the next round of layoffs. So to me, it is just a very toxic system that unfortunately continues a toxic system. And I've been writing books and doing all the things people do when they try to change it. This is my previous book, Customers Know You Suck. And it's a manual on customer centricity and having better outcomes. And it sold very well, but people wrote to me and said, this is amazing. I can't get people to do what you're saying. So
Fair enough.
that's the hard part. Even people contacted me from 3M, Mayo Clinic. That's the problem. That the money is not in making your customers solving your customers' problems. That doesn't seem to be where the money is, according to companies.
Thank you. Leonard and or Jeff, would you like to add a commentary?
Well, since everyone else is plugging their book, I'll plug mine too. Here's a picture of it.
I think I have to write a book.
Leonard, you're
Play
next.
your guitar, Leonard.
Yeah, maybe I should like.
So
yeah,
Jeff,
exactly.
did you want to add any comments to underscore or refute anything Debbie has said there?
No, I'll just say good luck to everybody. And, I mean, you've got good degrees. And so you're gonna find good jobs. There's lots of opportunities. Just, use a lot of common sense when you're choosing those opportunities and, think about being happy.
Well, Jeff, if I may interject, I know some people say common sense is not so common. So do you have
It's the
any
least common of the
specific
sentence. Yeah.
silver linings or tips for people who may be looking for a particular niche or maybe want to develop a specific skill that may be in demand in the future?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking me what skills they should develop?
Yeah, just if you happen to have any that come to
Well,
mind.
certainly AI is good. I've been telling my son, he's 12, software programming, AI, these are all good. So, when I say it's hyped, I'm not saying it's no good because I'm recommending my son do it. I'm also recommending he learn about DNA and about biology and combine these things. So that's where I think the biggest opportunities will be over the next 20 years.
So you have a preference for generative or non-generative AI?
Well, I think that it's all good. You wanna also understand problems from the user perspective, right? Understand businesses, understand how banks work, how manufacturing companies work, understand how these businesses work, right? You know this information technology. The only way you're gonna actually have a good impact is to understand the businesses you're trying to impact on. So you
So it
understand those
sounds like
things.
you're talking about maybe choose a vertical industry domain and learn about that.
Well,
Like
I
could be
think you want to learn
healthcare,
about the world. How
could
does the
be
world work?
fintech,
How do
it could
people make
be.
money?
Mhm.
How do
Fair enough.
people solve problems? And
Okay, I want to give Leonard a chance to respond, and then I have Dennis has someone who wants
Yeah.
to ask a question.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody wrote, I don't have, what is it? I don't have time to become I'm too old to become a firefighter. This is an interesting statement because here's the reality. Reality is everyone needs to be adaptable. That is the number one skill. And it's the art of being constantly uncomfortable and being comfortable with that. And so for some of you, if you're waiting for a job, you're looking for a job, you might have to be very proactive in creating those opportunities yourself. And one of the ways, one of the paths that you can consider is being an entrepreneur. And one of the things that is going to become a reality across the board is that as people start to go through these POCs, they are realizing our brownfields and our data are crap and they need to be cleaned up one way or the other. And our systems are disconnected, heterogeneous, it's a mess. And so none of these things really work together in order to drive good AI within the enterprise environment. So if you really want to look at practical problem-solving opportunities going forward, there is going to be demand for this stuff. Whether these companies realize that they need human resources to do these or not, eventually they will come to that realization of, obviously the demand for that is going to fluctuate and it's going to be influenced by hype thinking, board pressure to put investment in areas that are nonsensical. It's going to happen, and then they will cut important jobs that they will have to then probably contract out to get those resources back into a project or within the organization. But you have to be adaptable in so many ways, and that's really how you're going to have to play this tech career game, if you will. And entrepreneurship during times where, let's say, you can't find a job or it's difficult to find a job, that's something that you have to be able to it's a muscle that you're going to have to develop and flex on going forward, I think, and increasingly as we look forward into the future.
That's really helpful. Dennis,
I have a comment.
Yes.
I have a thought. And some of this actually is going in the time machine and going back to a previous time. But we have always, in the tech industry, been involved in offering our services. Yeah, we may build things, right? But we're there because we're providing service to somebody as part of a larger process. Now the time machine part of this is think back to why did you have a 10-year-old helping a grandparent 25, 35 years ago? Because they could not program the VCR, right? It's like they had some skill, some ability, and could provide a service that, this person hasn't had the imagination or the gumption to actually learn about. Well, in the tech industry today, there are still jobs where there's services that you can provide that still have to be there, and kind of going in increasing level of technical ability. I would say they are build engineer, the person who basically sets up the build environment to run the daily compile and test, right? Second one is software tester, right? AI can't test things yet, and probably never will do an adequate job. Third one is gathering requirements, and that is wide-ranging and crazy, right? And then the fourth one is tech writer. That's the most skilled position, because computers still can't write very well. They bollocks it up. They make it too wordy. They don't get to the point. Okay. So all four of those are places where you could go to a company and say, hey, I'll be an assistant build engineer for you. But then don't stop there. What you do is you go in, your eyes open, and you say, here are some things that you forgot to do, right? And maybe they're not in the build engineering part, but they happen to be things that you know about the domain, or you know about other parts of the process. So you become a valuable employee, not just because you've got this particular job title, but because you're seeing things that no AI system would actually question.
Fair enough.
All right.
Jordy, you had a question.
Yeah, Jordy.
Oh, get the mic.
Yeah.
Can anyone see me? So I'm probably you're at the background. Anywho, hey all, Jordy Hernandez. I am currently an entry-level unemployed person right now, but I'm still looking for work as of right now. I've been job searching since March of 2023, rotating to so many different jobs, ranging from temp assignments to various short-term jobs. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I graduated with an IT degree with my bachelor's degree, and the market is a complete nightmare to navigate, both to get my next job and basically to get myself on the foot into my career. Now, I'm going to be very blunt. I'm not the only one saying this. I mean, I'm young. I graduated when COVID was still a thing, but it's also frustrating to get your foot on the table. Entry-level jobs are nearly impossible to obtain one, because you're often going to be competing with a lot of people who are trying to get the same job as I am. Plus, the descriptions are insanely unrealistic, especially from a lot of the positions I look for. And I know, I hate to be honest, I know it's a frustrating job market, but I'm also trying to expand my skills, but also trying to be more marketable so I could finally get a job I needed and hopefully get back to getting into a stable life. So I'm just curious, from your perspectives, how do you feel as to younger people like I am, who just graduated college, those who are still trying to get through their jobs, who can go through this extremely tough job market, and what can you say about having to get the next job down the road, especially where I am, where I'm in a
Sounds to
difficult
me like
position?
you're asking for maybe a specific
Yeah.
tip or strategy as a
Yeah.
young entry-level person in technology. Would
Yeah.
any of our panelists like to tackle that?
I would get yourself out there and don't be invisible. Most people are. Put yourself out there. One of the greatest ways to get visibility is on LinkedIn. Connect with people, network. My mom used to tell me this, and I really sucked at it until I had to try. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I have trouble reaching out to people. I get nervous, and I get stage fright, right? You got to get over that. You have to make yourself known. You have to build your own personal eminence and professional eminence and your brand. It is absolutely essential if you want to you want to be able to it's not even compete, be noticed, right? And it's because if you're not noticed, you're just a statistic, and you probably won't win out when the dice are rolled. So.
Thank you, Leonard. I think that's very helpful advice and
It's
great
tough.
for Jordy.
Just
Jeff,
warning you.
would you like to add anything to what Leonard has suggested?
Go to some technology conferences, exhibitions, and find the people who are the most optimistic about AI and or any technology, and thus are probably hiring, right? There's people out there like that who are hiring, and they find that optimist.
Thank you. And Debbie.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming, but I disagree with what Leonard said. So I actually believe that this is advice that can end up unintentionally hurtful to someone, because in a sense it can be taken as, well, this is your fault. You've been looking for work for 2 years. You obviously haven't gotten yourself out there enough. You didn't go to enough events. You didn't network enough. You didn't build a personal brand. And I don't want to say that to anybody ever again. Because if you are not getting a job right now, it is the job market more than it is you. Do you have room for improvement? Sure, maybe you do. Maybe your resume could be better. Maybe an online portfolio of work could be better. Maybe there's always something we can do better. But I don't want people to think that more networking or better personal brand is not going to be the silver bullet, because I have 10,000 years of experience in what I do. I have a good reputation. I have plenty of LinkedIn recommendations. I have 43,000 followers on LinkedIn. And where's my job? I have a known personal brand in UX and CX. I have people calling me up saying they love my book from some of the biggest companies in the country. Where's my job? So I don't want people to think if only you network a little bit more, or post to LinkedIn, or do some of these things. To me, this is traditional advice that used to work and just doesn't work as well. It's not that it's all bad. It's not that you should go against what Leonard's saying, but I don't want anybody to think that if only you went to more meetups, that that's going to solve everything. Because it has I've seen the unintended mental health effects from people who say, but I've been looking for 2 years. And so to me, it's primarily the job market. I'm sure there's things you could try to do better. Aurelia is saying, I think authenticity is the key. I am not going to tell the person who just asked the question that they're not being authentic enough, because to me, this all sounds like gaslighting and victim blaming when we're all in a bad place. We're in a bad place. And I think that you're not in a bad place, Leonard. We're not in a
No,
bad
I'm
place. The
not.
job
I'm in a
market's
pretty
great.
friggin' good place. No. So there's a difference between looking for a job and finding business. And I think we need to be clear on that. Are you really looking for a job from these big brands, or are you looking for the next gig, the next project? I guess that's the question that should be asked. And I don't think there's anything wrong with continuing to build your brand and being noticed. It's because it is a game. It's a statistical game. And if you don't put yourself out there, you have a lower chance of getting noticed. And so you have to work at it. And I'm not trying to sell a book, right? I'm not trying to sell anything on anyone here. I'm trying to help people out. So, we need to be clear. Are you looking for a job? Or are you looking for your next project? Those are two different things.
Well, I'm going to jump in here in the
Mhm.
interest of time because we've had a really robust set of questions and answers
Mhm.
and dialogue, and I know we've all learned a lot from all of you. What I will say is that truth is probably somewhere in the middle, you know. So I hope you'll accept my diplomatic summary. And so with that, I would like to close our meeting. I want to thank all of our terrific panelists. They did a great job informing us and giving us some context and direction and suggestions. I hope everyone got value, those of you online and also our wonderful group of attendees in person. And Dennis, is there anything you'd like to add?